And hello, it is about that time. I've got 10:59 on my clock here, which means by the time the lag comes through, my voice hopefully will have started. And here we are. It looks like we are on Facebook and on YouTube. So that is great. If you happen to get on here in either place, go ahead and send a comment. And the way this works, questions and answers. I'll answer questions live first on the comments or by Facebook Messenger if you'd like to keep your question confidential. It'll just be between you and me where it came from, and I'd answer the question on the live. Would be glad to. I'm doing this on a Saturday. A few reasons go into that. It's holidays. We had something that we wanted to do during the weekday. We'll likely do that again later this month. But two, I wanted to try Saturday to see if I might get a different group. Someone might say, well, why did Van decide to do questions and answers at 11 o'clock anyway? You rewind to 2020, quarantine, people were at home, and many people were working from home, and most of the people I knew were in the Eastern time zone, and so I decided that I would do questions and answers in the time that would be their lunchtime. I haven't changed it because maybe I'm just resistant to change, but it happened to work out pretty well for me, and sometimes that time frame gets a little tenuous even with it being somewhat normal, and we'd had it where I'd missed it some anyway. But time is our topic at hand, and while I'm talking about it, I thought I'd give you a moment to say good morning, ask a question if you have one. It'd be good to hear from you. So that's the plan, and let's look at this idea of time. I decided I'd subtitle this, or whatever it is you want to call it, in the descriptions there in Facebook. Managing our time. I don't really like that word. We'll look at that in a minute. But by reducing, multiplying, and dividing. I'm not really a math person, but that's sort of what these fell under as I was thinking about it, and I'll try to give credit to whom credit's due as we come to some things that I didn't think of myself, but really, how many of us have thought of everything ourselves? So if you've given me one of these ideas, I apologize if I just took it from you. Trying to use it or failing at using it one way or other, but just talking about time from the perspective that I can, and hopefully that will help you. There was a bulletin board up at the School of Preaching where I went, the West Virginia School of Preaching, and for a while, I don't know if it's still there, but there was a little cartoon that said, it used to be that I couldn't spell preacher, now I are one. Well, here we are, we're looking at time from a preacher's perspective, and why? Because I are one. And hopefully there's some ideas that can help you. The perspective that I can come from is somewhat unique in the sense that it would correspond more, if you look at the rest of things that people do in the world, more with someone who is self-employed. I don't have a time clock or an earthly manager as such, and so that gives me a lot of liberty with my time. A lot of ways that I could abuse it, a lot of ways that I can use it, and with that liberty comes some struggles too. But really, each of us at some foundational point has the ability to choose what we want to do with our time. We might be well invested into something that takes some of that ability from us, but our time is ours. And if we don't like the way we're spending it, and we can make changes about that, sometimes more drastic and sometimes less. So I've said time a lot. Maybe that's just sticking out because of what the subject is, but it's going to happen a lot more. And one of the first comments under the post about this upcoming live said, put God first, everything else will fall into place. Certainly do not disagree with that. Now, that's an easier said than done thing, and it looks different for different people. But that's the point that we're starting at. One way that we manage our time, and I'll just go ahead and deal with that word now. I don't like the word manage as much as balance. Manage tends to me to communicate something that's just so, hey, look at that. I put it in its nice, neat spots. And sometimes with time, when it doesn't go the way that we want it to go, we lose it all. It's that perfectionist syndrome, where if I can't have it 100%, well, then I'll have none of it. We don't so much manage time and figure out how our time works. I guess that's what I'm trying to be careful to avoid. Like, okay, that does it for me. That's the way my time works and the box that it fits in. As much as we balance our time, and that idea of looking at balancing our time then fits well in this idea of reducing, dividing, multiplying, dividing that we're going to look at. So reduce. We reduce our time, not reducing what we do necessarily, or reducing the amount of time that we put into something, but we reduce what our focus is, and that is number one. Then, if our focus is on God, then what we've done is we've put Him into the equation in everything that we do. So when we're reducing fractions, we're looking at a common denominator, and I don't know all the words for it, already past my math knowledge, but we are looking for a common thing to bring all the fractions into a greater clarity and simplicity. When we're reducing our life and the stress and complications of it, we can divide our life by God, in a sense of speaking, our common denominator, who we focus. Check. How's that? Check. Hey, there we go. Thank you so much for letting me know that it went mute. I'm not sure exactly what happened, but there we go. Appreciate the help. That should have done it. Yay. Okay. Thank you. So where was I? I'll have to. I'll get back to making the first point that I made. Sorry, doing the technical stuff is not my thing anyway. But when it's messed up and I have to do it live, no pressure. Cut the red wire or the blue wire. Here we go. But thank you so much for letting me know about that. So we're looking at balancing our time. First of all, reducing the fractions in our lives by focusing on God. If we can't fit it in a life for Him, get rid of it. And that relates to the rest of it, and that is multiplying and dividing. A lot of times we talk about what to add or what to take away, and I guess I sort of did that by reducing, but that helps us make that decision. It clarifies, is this good for my time? Is it bad? That doesn't mean that there's no room for fun, right? But those fun things, why do you do them ultimately? How do they fit in your life and enrich it in a way that's beneficial to a godly life? And now the multiplying, dividing. Here's multiplying. I have to give props to a TED Talk that was recommended to me, and that was, if you want to look at it, it's worth your time. It's called, I do believe, Multiplying Your Time. I haven't watched it since I watched it a while back, but the gist of it was anything that you can invest some time in now that will save you time in the future will effectively multiply your time. Sometimes we don't do things that will simplify our lives in the future, that will make things faster in the future because we don't have the time now. And I've been caught in that before, but one example would be automating something that you don't need to do yourself. Now that's not automating just everything, right? If you can automate getting your kids ready in the morning, you don't want to take yourself out of that equation. But if you can automate some mundane thing, in regards to automation, quite literally, if you could do it on your computer, set it up where it can do it and you don't have to worry about it. In this age of AI, there are many of those mundane things you might be able to do. Or maybe it's not so much automating from a computer aspect, but maybe it's getting someone else to do it. And when we're keeping our first focus, reducing our focus there to God, then getting someone else to do it, you also are doing to others as you'd have them do to you, what can help equip them, prepare them. Having children, maybe a good illustration is this. If you've ever taught a child to sweep, by the time they sweep that room, you could have done it maybe 10 times. And you say, I just don't have time for this. Well, this is where you're trying to balance your time by multiplying, because if you teach them to sweep today, they might take your time a little more today, but there will be a day where you can say sweep, and they can sweep. We are so blessed to have children who can cook, and it doesn't reduce Jennifer's cooking so much as it gives them other opportunities. So when we are getting ready for a potluck, or we're doing an event at our home like we are this week, Jennifer has much less cooking to do because she can practically say cook, and they can do their own items. They can cook from scratch. They can use recipes, and it took time in the beginning, and now it saves us time. It's actually like it's multiplying it. Whenever you look at Ephesians chapter 5, verse 15, it's talking about how we need to walk in wisdom toward or circumspectly. I was thinking of Colossians. Circumspectly, not as fools, but as wise, redeeming the time, for the days are evil. And aside from, of course, the spiritual application, that living right, we're sort of making up for it, but you can't make up for wrong living. Jesus' blood pays for that. But in the sense of speaking, what he's saying is we're making up, we're redeeming the time that we lost where we shouldn't have been doing something. But about the closest we can get to making up for time, since we can't add it, is multiplying what our time gets done. And it might be by training your children, or biblically, in regards to doing the work, it might be by training other people to study the Bible, training other people to teach the Bible. We have that saying, you give a man a fish, he'll eat for a day. Teach a man a fish, he'll what's the rest of that goes? He'll waste a lot of time. No, he'll be able to eat for a lifetime. And so that's the concept of multiplying time. And then dividing time. This is something that may or may not work out. I just sort of made it up. We're keeping that focus in mind. We're training others and preparing things that can be automated, so we don't have to mess with it anymore to do things. And in the idea of dividing time, it's more understanding the concept of our lives, that we are spiritual and physical beings living in a physical world. And in that sense, we're living multiple lives in the same time, and keeping our number one focus on God. We recognize I'm moving through this physical world, but it's not this and then Him. It's this and Him, this and working for Him. And someone might say, well, you're a preacher. That's what your job is. It's for God. And that's great. It's one reason I chose to do what I do today. But what about you if you have a job you clock in 8, 12 hours a day? What do you do to live that physical and spiritual life? Well, first of all, you take that focus. You go in and you hit that time clock, knowing that whatever you do, you're going to do it heartily as to the Lord and not to be seen by men. And having that kind of drive and that kind of focus, you're living your life for God, that reduction of all the complications. You will be more inclined to make your time count. Maybe you get a little lazy at work, or maybe you have fallen into line with some of the other people who say you get paid by the hour. Slow down. No, not God's people. We're going to do what we can, make the most out of the time we have, and in doing that, you're living that more than one life at a time. You're living in its proper divisions together. Spiritual, physical, at the same time. As a preacher, and this is where I'm going to get into specifically some challenges, not woe is me, but the pendulum, there we go, that I've seen regarding a preacher and his work, and difficulties in how to manage time. And I'm going to bring up just some hasty generalizations, some exaggerations and extremes to make some points. So don't think if you do something like this, I'm saying, well, that's just absolutely wrong. But we are coming, I think, into another age after what was called, like, what I consider like a professional preacher age. And an extreme of the professional preacher is you have these 9 to 5, 8-hour, 40-hour week office times, and you're going to be there, and you represent the professional getting the church work done kind of thing. And that is closely related to, and probably in part responsible for, the workaholic preacher. And that is, well, he's not only going to be there, but he's going to be everywhere else during all the other time, the rest of the time. So somebody has rightly brought up today that we need to stop acting like being a workaholic is a merit. It's one thing to be devoted. It's another thing to be addicted. Those need to be kept in their proper places. So many workaholic preachers have lost their faith and lost their family. And so whenever I put the topic up, I put it in no particular order. I intentionally didn't want to put it in first, second, third. But we know it's God first. But what about a preacher's work and his family? Scripture would say that if a man is not married, 1 Corinthians chapter 7, then he can worry about the things of the Lord. But if he's married, he needs to be concerned for his wife. We see the biblical precedent then for a preacher to put God first, then his wife, then his children, and then the church. But when we're looking at increasing our time and balancing it by dividing, I don't mean divide by saying, okay, this is in this box over here, and this is in this box over there. It's another conversation to say, okay, some people need to leave their work at work. If you have an office job, a clock in, clock out, or you have a construction job, if you can clock out and go home and you don't have to think about construction, you can focus on your family, that's great. That's what you can do. But what you never clock out of is being a Christian. And so as a preacher, a special difficulty is, well, hold on, part of my job is Christianing, right? It's being that way, and I don't work 9 to 5 as a Christian and then clock out of it and put all that behind me. And then at the other extreme, though, I have to be careful that I'm not saying, well, there you go, I'm never clocked out. I'm always here, always open, and I should be, but for what and for when? And how does that work, especially when your time is very much your own? I might be bringing up more questions and challenges than answers, but I'll tell you, in this idea of the multiplying and dividing, one balance that I see is this. You've got to be professional in the sense of what you're doing is important, and it deserves focus and attention. It deserves detail. It deserves your passion and energy in regards to that kind of professionalism. But this cold, I'm here, I did my duty kind of thing, and now I'm out, that can't be it. But you also can't lose yourself and your family to this investment in a life that forgets that God was actually the reason, being approved of Him was your number one goal, and losing yourself and your family in the process misses it. So where is that balance? You're always God's, and in always being God's person, you are going to take care of your wife. You're going to take care of your family. You're going to do the ministry that's been given to you the best you can. And that is a 24/7, 365 job. And I like to tell people I'm on call 24/7, 365. That doesn't mean that I'll answer every call, that every call is a call that goes above me and my family. That might be contradictory to my life and striving in God. However, there are ones that are. Who makes that decision? Ultimately, each individual, each preacher does, and their lives look different depending on their strengths and their weaknesses. So here's an idea of something that I've not perfected, of course, at all, but I'm trying to get better at, and this is something that you can take whether you're a preacher or not, apply it to your lives in serving God with your family, with your spouse. What do? You don't make your life, okay, this time to this time I've got to serve God, and now I need to spend family time. We want to teach our family, encourage our family to serve God like they should. So think outside of the box, and are there things that you could include your spouse, your children in, that perhaps it's just been easier to do on your own to start with? maybe you'd be multiplying your time by going through the extra effort now to be able to do that work with them and more, and then they're able to do more. Dividing the time in the sense of saying, okay, I have to do these things. I've got these appointments, this schedule, driving from here to here today. But instead of just thinking as this physical point that I have to be at spiritually, what is it that needs to be done? Hey, brother or sister so-and-so live over there. Now that I'm thinking about how I'm using my time and trying to use it for more than one thing, maybe we can stop by there and do that together as well. Now, this is where the balance comes in, because you could rightly make all your time and energy and investment in serving God, but make it appear to your family like you're never actually with them. And so that's where each individual has to determine in their minds, but also communicate to their family. We're going and doing this together, not because you're the preacher's family, or however that might apply to you, but because it's the right thing to do. Because we're growing in the compassion that God has taught us to have, and we want to be mindful of these things. And so whenever we're looking at our lives in Christ and balancing our time there, we focus our attention on Him. Focusing our attention on Him, we say, what can we do to help our lives and the lives of those we love and influence be more productive for Him? Investing time and energy in that multiplies our time, and we're able to divide up our work and see who can go with me. Maybe this is something that's best on my own, and I can get physical and spiritual things done at the same time. And so in that reduction, multiplication, and division, it almost gives an illusion of having more time. As I'm winding down, haven't seen any questions, but good to have everybody with us that's come on. Sorry about the technical difficulty. I'll just say this finally, something else I'm not great at, and that is utilizing good things for many things. Preachers, if you preach something, you can write it. If you write it, maybe you can preach it. If you can write it and preach it, maybe you can put it in a tract. And what you've done is you've multiplied that, and you're dividing the possible uses for it as well. And if you're a math major, please don't correct me too much. But hopefully that was helpful for you. Hope you're having a happy holiday. And see you back here probably next Thursday. Be watching for a special announcement of a special guest. And you have a great day.